Before we get started with today's interview, just a quick reminder, click the thumbs up, make sure you subscribe, and ding the bell so that you don't miss any of the great interviews that we have coming up. Now, on to today's interview. Welcome back, everybody. Today, my special guest is composer and teacher Brock Chart. Welcome, Brock. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for having me.
I want to start off today by getting to know you just a little bit as a composer and a musician. So talk to me about your background. Do you come from a musical family?
My mom took lessons as a kid and stopped around like high school. And besides that, like my parents are just big music lovers and, always went to concerts. And, I remember like, my dad showing me his vinyl collection. And so always been very supportive.
So they really had a great love of music and kind of shared that love of music with you. That's just super awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. At what point did you start playing an instrument?
I remember it like it was yesterday. I was about 6 years old and went with my grandpa to an auction, and like some really old beat up, a lot of the keys were broken, like upright piano rolled out on the auction floor and nobody wanted it. And he leaned over and, asked if I would be interested in piano lessons or would ever want to do that. Oh, and if you ask a 6-year-old, like, do you want to blank? Like, they are just immediately on board. And so I said, absolutely. And, no other bidders or anything like that. And so we ended up taking that piano home. And so started lessons with just like my general music teacher from elementary school. And about six years old, I think.
What a cool chance beginning, but it fed nicely into being raised in that musical environment, that environment with people who were music lovers. So You progressed through these lessons. In the lessons, was there a lot of emphasis on just reading, classical repertoire, improvisation? What were those lessons like? What did your teacher help you, and how did that teacher inspire you?
It very much made me like the type of writer that and teacher that I am now. I was really into lessons in piano for like the first couple of years. And then, I started to, develop my own taste or, start to hear whatever's on the radio or like the, rock and roll stuff that my dad was showing me. And that was harder to kind of, to play. And I was a stubborn kid and wanting to improvise or, do stuff by ear, but there's just not a lot of teachers that have that training. And so we would kind of butt heads a little bit. And I ended up kind of, I still took piano, but kind of actually went towards like the saxophone for a while. And for a while, that was my main thing because I could be in the jazz band, I could like improvise, and I could be in the pep band, and like I know every tune that the band's playing, And it was only until like high school that I kind of circled back to the piano. And gosh, I was so mad at my band director at the time. Our like jazz pianist had just graduated, and he knew that I read enough to do the gig, and he like forced me in that role, and I was so mad, Sam, and like never forgave it. But I mean, thank goodness he did it, because I fell in love with the piano all over again, and never really did the saxophone.
Wow, that was fortuitous that he saw that in you and gave you that opportunity, even though you didn't want the opportunity. But you took the chance on something that wasn't really what you thought was your thing, and it turned out to be this lifelong passion. I love how you stayed open to those possibilities. I think that is a really cool lesson for any music student. I love that.
Thank you.
At what point did the switch flip and you felt like, this is going to be my life. This is what I want to do. This is my great passion.
Yeah, it was probably high school, I was kind of, definitely like a music kid, but, like a saxophone player was my main thing. And then I, was forced into the jazz piano role, and I just really, really loved it. And, my director, Mr. Ben Rohr, he was just a great jazz player. And he always encouraged, improvisation and, going to camps. And he's the one that first got me into composition too. Though he, told me I was like took a class where I was his assistant for like 30 minutes or whatever. And so he said I should write a song for the jazz combo. And like, I was so scared. But he, made me do it. And like, it was all handwritten, and I have terrible handwriting anyways, but, he, with a lot of help from him and, a lot of the friends, we like pulled it off, and I was hooked. I, wanted to write as much as I could after that. So he, I owe a lot to him.
Wow. How cool that you had a teacher, a mentor who saw that ability in you, that saw that and then nurtured that spark. And like, it's now become your career and your life. That is awesome.
Very lucky to have great teachers. Yeah.
Yeah, I love hearing about teachers that do that for students. That is just so cool. After high school, what was your path after that?
Well, I went to Washburn for a couple of years in Topeka as like a music education major. And then I went and heard like the KU Jazz Festival about every March, and they always bring in like some heavy hitters for guest soloists and like stuff like that. And so I went to one of their concerts in March and was just absolutely blown away by their band. I mean, they were just playing some really, really cool stuff, incredible musicians. And what really stuck out to me was that Dan Gailey is the director, and he made a point, like almost every single song that I heard that night was like an arrangement from a student in the band. And I thought that was like, oh man, like, this is a place I could actually do that. And so I ended up going to transferring to KU and stayed there for the rest of my bachelor's and in my graduate degree there.
How cool is that? So another teacher who was really investing in students and had figured out how to build a program that gave students that opportunity to really be in the driver's seat.
Oh, it was crucial, I mean, just having a teacher that, really believes and challenges his students to do, things that you didn't. I mean, I never thought I could do something like that, but, but he believed and, worked and developed the students there, and just a remarkable educator.
So talk to us then about about your path from graduating from college and then getting to the point where you are now, where you are doing. Talk to me about what does your typical day look like? That might be a good place to start.
Well, yeah, I'm a private lesson teacher myself. And so, my, get up and a lot of coffee, and then I try to, see how my day is looking. And, usually schools around here don't get out until about 3 or 3:30. And so I have, until the morning to about there to, either write or do, different projects or whatnot, before I really start my teaching day. Oh, and yeah, I started like teaching private lessons in college, and worked for like a couple of local studios, and always enjoyed working with kids. And ended up writing a couple of like arrangements for kids, because everybody wants to do what's on the radio, but a lot of that stuff just doesn't translate too well. So I ended up writing like a bunch of arrangements and started writing my own like original pieces for them, and really, really loved that. And so I just like kept doing it and kind of developed like a little book that would, end up kind of being like a draft for Five Finger Jazz.
So really inspired by students, stuff that was already tested with students, and it grew really organically out of a need from your students. And I love that you are not high in the ivory tower, that you are down in the trenches with the rest of us teaching students, and you understand what the needs are for people like me who teach students all day long. That's awesome.
For sure. And, students, they are my guinea pigs, and they will always be the harshest critic. I'll tell you that. They will not be afraid to be like, this piece is trash. You're trash. So, or like, oh, this piece isn't very cool at all. Or, so I learn a bunch from my students, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun teaching.
Well, that's really cool that your pieces go through that harsh process and that proving ground of making sure they're actually student approved as well as being teacher approved.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So what are some of the most important things that you did that helped you to become a better composer?
I think just saying yes to things, whether I knew how to do it or not. Honestly, I have a bad habit of just saying yes, regardless whether I know that skill or not, or whether I've like ever done that gig. And it's like spooky kind of thinking about it and talking about it like that. But like when I got to KU, I saw the group do arrangements for these guest artists for like the KU Jazz Festival. And so I had the opportunity, would you like to arrange one of these, pieces for that? And I just said yes. I didn't know how to do it. And, I had never done anything remotely like that before at all on that type of scale. And I just said yes. And I don't know, you have to learn by fire, I guess. And, there was a lot of bad readings. But, after a while, I think you have to kind of like rise to the occasion. I would say, just continue to say yes, even if you've, never done it before. And, you will kind of rise to the occasion and learn those skills, and you'll look back and be happy about it.
I love how you just jumped in the deep end and you just put yourself up to it and said, well, I've committed to this. I'm going to do it. I have to figure it out. And what a great way to learn and challenge yourself. And do you feel that when you said yes to those things, that opportunity led to another opportunity?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, some of those are like scary opportunities. And like, like there's a bunch of trumpet players out there, or like saxophonists or whatever, but there's not as many composers. And so, if you continue to say yes for some of these opportunities, even if they are scary, you are going to be remembered as like, you can do this and you have a track record of this, and you're going to feel more confident about it at the next one. And you're going to continue, getting those calls and those opportunities. Oh, and so I think just kind of saying yes, you make your own credentials, and kind of make your own, experiences, and, you develop those skills gradually.
I love that. What a cool way to allow success to beget more success, and just to continually build your skills as a composer and as a musician. I think that's just the coolest thing.
Thank you.
Where do you seek inspiration for your compositions?
Honestly, like when I'm just driving around, I'm mostly listening to like pop and rock music. Like that's kind of what I, grew up on, and I'm as well as jazz stuff. And the stuff I'm writing nowadays, it really like fits into that. The jazz, the pop, and the rock. Those are the styles of music that really speak to me. And but also, just whatever my students are kind of interested in. Like as a working composer, like I'm always trying to write something that's like for something. It's like for a purpose. And so very rarely do I like just get to write for myself. And so, I'm always kind of like looking around or like listening to like, what are my students listening to? What are my students interested in? What are the type of pieces that they like? Is there something that they need? Is there a need that I can fill or to help or to supplement in some way?
So what are some of the attributes that you feel help people to become successful composers?
That's another good question. I think that being, not afraid to hear no. And you're going to hear a lot of no's. I've heard a lot of no's, but just having kind of an iron will, and just a lot of perseverance that, no matter what gets you down or whatever, you're going to continue to say yes to opportunities. And if opportunities aren't there, you're going to, continue to make calls or cold emails or whatever, and try to make opportunities for yourself rather than, waiting around looking at the phone. So I think that, that those kind of self-drive qualities are good for composers, especially those that are like wanting to self-publish. And then, those that are, kind of looking around for like opportunities, like, what do students want? What do students need? And kind of being attuned to that. And I think that being a teacher really helps you with that, because you're, right in the trenches and, teaching kids every day.
Absolutely. I love that drive, that perseverance, that indomitable spirit that you come to adopt to approach this. I think that's just so cool.
Thank you.
So a lot of composers, and what I see in my own composition students, is that there's two huge challenges. The first challenge is just getting past the blank page, getting started with something. And then the other challenge is starting a million things and finishing nothing. So how do you get past those two challenges as a composer?
That is a really good question, and I have both of those problems chronically. Whenever I teach composition, and the more and more that I write too, the more and more that I try to make like a story arc or like a written storyboard. And it's an exercise that I do with all of my composition students, even like improvisation students too, to where like I'll literally just in a Word document, like write, this is the type of piece that we're doing, intro. I want it to be, slow, high, moody, whatever. And I end up writing this kind of storyboard for the piece that has, intro, whatever, first verse, second verse, chorus, whatever. And there's not a lick of music notation at all. It's just a Word document. And what I love about that approach is that it gets a big picture perspective from the get-go. And you don't get as paralyzed if you try to write like measure one to the end in order. You can drive yourself crazy. And, if I want the chorus to be like this huge giant thing, I might not know how to do that right now, and I might not have heard it, and that's okay. But if I can kind of see what I want, then I can maybe, it'll help me get there or help me hear when I need to. So I think that helps with like the blank page, paralysis. On the other side of things, with like having all of these ideas and finishing none of them, that is something that I do a lot. And I've learned that you've just got to commit and write something. And that even if you're not sold on it, if you have something that's tangible that you can see at the end of a session or whatever, then you can really fine tune things much, much clearer with like, I like this idea, but the rhythm is a little weird, or like, I don't like this note, and you can shape it and you can kind of, almost like a wood sculptor, you start with a block and then you just chisel it away until it's something that you really like. But if it's all in your head, it's harder for me to do that. But if you commit and just write something down, then you can really start shaving away the parts that might not speak as well to you.
That makes perfect sense. I love both of those tips. I love storyboarding so you have that kind of general plan that kind of guides you through the process of getting started and what each section is going to be. And I love how you are just kind of committing and saying, hey, I got to get something down. And then I can fix it later, but right now I just got to get something down. That's incredibly helpful. I love both of those tips.
Thank you.
So I often ask people, how did you connect with your publisher? But you are your publisher because you started My Melodies. Talk to me a little bit about starting My Melodies.
I did. Yeah, it was kind of a mistake. It was no, it was a happy mistake. It's been a happy mistake, but I will tell you right now that I knew absolutely zero about printing or publishing or anything when I did it, and I originally kind of made a little draft of Five Finger Jazz. And I sent it to Alfred Publishing, and I got a very nice letter back from Tom Giroux, and he probably doesn't remember me, but he was very, very supportive and very, very kind. He didn't have to do that at all. But it was a refusal letter, and I ended up just saying I was discouraged for a little bit, but I already have these pieces. It's something that I really want to do. What would it take to just for me to just print it? And I'm very lucky that my fiance is a marketer, and at the time she was working for a local printer, and so it was just a lot of things that were in the right place at the right time. And so I knew nothing. But so I got a copy of, some books that I really admire, books that I grew up on, some of the Faber stuff and the Martha Myers. And I, purchased copies of those and brought them to the local printer and just hey, what can you tell me about this? What size is it? What paper size is it? The paper weight, all of that stuff. And they were incredibly helpful. They wrote a list of oh, it's saddle stitch, and then it's this size, and this is too big for our printer, but you can do this size, and and they just made a list. And like I was saying earlier, a lot of cold calls, you would be surprised with how far that can get you, and that didn't cost me anything to ask for their help, and they are happy to lend it. And then that, it, the comic book design, I knew that I wanted something like that, but I can't draw to save my life. And so I went on literally Upwork.com, and it's the Fiverr before Fiverr, and found a comic book guy that had publishing experience. And so he was immediately on the same page with what I wanted, and was able to do it. And he's just amazing to work for. I've never met him. It's just the power of the internet, but he's been my person ever since. And, a lot of those things, I don't think I would have ever been able to do with a larger publisher, honestly. Looking back, I don't think that they would have been allowed me to do that. But, it did make me stand out, and, trying to be, what kids are wanting.
Well, you've certainly achieved that, and it's a really cool thing. Your books look great, and we'll talk about those in another interview.
Thank you.
But I think that it's just super successful, and I can't wait to use these with my students. So what do you hope to be known for?
I hope that maybe, I want to be known that, students enjoy the music. And that's always been my number one thing. And I set out to make these books because, I wanted something that I would have liked as a kid. And so, if I can make books that kids really gravitate towards, and it speaks to the kids, then, oh man, that's my job.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. My guest has been composer and teacher Brock Chart. Thank you again, Brock.
Thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate you having me.